Imagine a world where plumbers can save princesses, gorillas throw barrels, and a small boy in a green tunic fights evil to the sound of heroic music. Now imagine that all of it, the universes, the characters, the sense of wonder, was born not from a massive corporation or a boardroom of executives, but from the imagination of a young man wandering through the forests and caves of rural Japan. That man was Shigeru Miyamoto, and his ideas would go on to reshape how we think about video games and storytelling itself. Miyamoto was born on November 16, 1952, in Sonobe, a small town northwest of Kyoto. His childhood wasn't filled with gadgets or electronics. It was defined by curiosity. He explored the countryside around his home, climbing mountains, venturing into caves, and drawing inspiration from the natural world. There was one memory in particular, the day he discovered a cave hidden in the hills. He brought a lantern and stepped inside, heart racing as the light revealed the mysterious darkness. That childhood sense of exploration would one day inspire one of the most famous video games ever made, The Legend of Zelda. But before there was Zelda, there was a struggling company called Nintendo. When Miyamoto joined in the late 1970s, Nintendo was still trying to figure out what video games could be. The arcade boom was in full swing, but Nintendo's first attempts at video games weren't going well. One of their biggest failures was a game called Radar Scope, which performed so poorly in the United States that the company was left with unsold machines collecting dust in warehouses. That's when Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, gave Miyamoto a challenge: turn Radar Scope's hardware into a new game that could save the company. It was an enormous responsibility for a young artist who had never designed a video game before. But Miyamoto approached it the way he approached everything, with creativity and playfulness. He wanted to make something that told a story, something that made people smile. The result was Donkey Kong, released in 1981. The game introduced the world to a character who would soon become a legend, a little man in red overalls trying to rescue his girlfriend from a giant ape. That man didn't even have a name at first. He was just called Jumpman. Later, he would become Mario. Donkey Kong was a massive success. It was simple, but filled with personality. Every element, from the way the characters moved to the cartoonish charm of the setting, reflected Miyamoto's unique approach to design. He didn't just want to create challenges. He wanted to create experiences that felt alive. From there, Miyamoto's imagination exploded. He followed Donkey Kong with Mario Bros. In 1983, and then with Super Mario Bros. In 1985, a game that would define an entire generation. Super Mario Bros. Wasn't just a hit, it was a revolution. Its smooth side-scrolling gameplay, colorful world, and memorable music turned video games from a passing fad into a cultural phenomenon. The game sold more than 40 million copies and became the cornerstone of Nintendo's global rise. What made Miyamoto's work special wasn't just technical innovation, it was heart. He believed that games should feel like toys, joyful, intuitive, and full of discovery. While other designers focused on difficulty or realism, Miyamoto focused on emotion. He once said, "A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad." It was a philosophy rooted in patience and craftsmanship, a belief that great art comes from care, not deadlines. In 1986, Miyamoto returned to the spirit of his childhood explorations with The Legend of Zelda. Unlike Super Mario Bros., which guided players along a clear path, Zelda dropped them into an open world with no instructions. It was risky, even radical at the time. But it invited something new: curiosity. Players were free to wander, experiment, and uncover secrets at their own pace. It was less about winning and more about experiencing a sense of adventure. The feeling of stepping into the unknown that Miyamoto had as a child was now something players all around the world could feel too. As Nintendo grew, so did his creative universe. He went on to shape series like Star Fox, F-Zero, and Pikmin, each one with its own distinctive personality. His games never felt manufactured, they felt handcrafted. Every sound, every movement, every hidden detail carried his touch. Even today, you can sense Miyamoto's influence whenever you pick up a Nintendo controller. What's remarkable about him is his philosophy. Miyamoto never saw games as products. He saw them as experiences of joy and wonder. He often spoke about designing around the player's emotions, about what they would feel at every step. For him, the technology was secondary. The heart of a game was the connection between player and world. And despite being one of the most important figures in entertainment history, Miyamoto remains humble. He once said he didn't consider himself a genius, just a craftsman who loves to make people smile. That humility defines his approach to creativity. He's always been curious, always learning, always refining. Even as Nintendo moved into new eras with 3D graphics and complex systems, Miyamoto stayed true to his guiding principle that games should be fun before anything else. In 1996, Super Mario 64 launched with the Nintendo 64, and once again, Miyamoto changed everything. It was one of the first true 3D platformers, allowing players to explore fully realized worlds. The feeling of freedom, of running, jumping, and flying through space captured that same spark of imagination that had driven him since childhood. Through the decades, Miyamoto's creations have become more than entertainment. They've become cultural icons. Mario's red cap, Link's green tunic, the Triforce symbol. These are as recognizable as the Mickey Mouse ears or the Superman S. His characters have transcended generations, appealing to both children and adults, gamers and non-gamers alike. But maybe what's most inspiring is that Miyamoto never set out to be famous. He simply wanted to make people happy. In interviews, he often smiles modestly when people call him a legend. He sees himself more as a storyteller, one who happens to use games instead of words. His stories don't unfold on paper, they unfold through play, through curiosity, through that moment when a player discovers something new and smiles. Today, even in his 70s, Miyamoto still works at Nintendo, guiding younger designers and keeping that creative spirit alive. He's often seen cycling to the Kyoto headquarters with the same energy and optimism he's always had. He once said that as long as he can bring joy to people, he'll keep creating. When you think about it, Shigeru Miyamoto didn't just invent video games as we know them, he reminded us that play is a fundamental part of being human, that even as adults, we can still explore, discover, and dream. The magic of Mario jumping over a Goomba or Link opening a treasure chest isn't just nostalgia, it's a reminder of what it feels like to be curious, brave, and full of wonder. So the next time you pick up a controller, remember that behind those pixels and sounds lies the imagination of one man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. A man who turned childhood adventures into global myths. And even now, somewhere in Kyoto, Shigeru Miyamoto is probably smiling, thinking of the next world he'll invite us all to explore.